What is up, guys? It is Quinn here, and today I thought I'd hop on and go through a fantasy football mock draft using the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. So, this is going to be a pretty normal draft. We're going PPR scoring. I randomized the draft spot. We're going to be picking from the number 12 position. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of picking from this spot. I don't think it's the worst position, but just not a huge fan of it. But we're going to try it out, see how it works. Some people may like picking back into the first round, kind of at that 1-2 turn, the 3-4 turn, and then the roster construction. We're going one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, a tight end. We're going to go two flexes to shake it up a little bit, and then going with five bench slots. So let's jump right into it. I think normally when you're looking at this like back end of the first round, you're going to be looking at strong wide receiver options, players like Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, and then you're also getting into like the Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, potentially Travis Kelce. I feel like those are the players we're going to be looking at this spot. So let's take a look to see who is available for us. Actually, before we do that, let's see who went off the board. So, wow, we saw a ton of running backs go off. Honestly, I think this is the craziest run of running backs I've seen in like any fantasy draft this year. So it was JT, CMC, Eckler, Henry, Harris, Cook, Mixon, Saquon, and then Aaron Jones as the first 9 picks. Then it went with Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson. So now, if I'm being honest, Jamar Chase has not been picked. In most leagues, like if you're playing in pretty competitive leagues with sharp drafters, I feel like it is very, very unlikely that you're going to see Jamar Chase fall this far. But if you're playing in more casual leagues, maybe it's your home league, you're playing with like family, friends, whatever, I could see this happening. I feel like Chase is kind of like the odd man out of those top three receivers. If it was Kupp, Jefferson, or Chase, I feel like Chase is the guy who would fall. So here at pick 12, Jamar Chase is definitely going to be the no-brainer here. And then for the second pick, since we're at the 1-2 turn, we could look at DeAndre Swift. We could also look at Adams or Diggs, or we could look at Kelce. So we definitely have a few different options here. When I'm looking at the running back position, this is kind of a tough spot here because we could snag Swift. He would be our RB1. The issue is I think there's potential value at the 3-4 turn with players like Breece Hall and Travis Etienne. The question is the issue is that if those guys don't fall there, then we may be looking thin at the running back position. We could go Travis Kelce. For me, pick 13, I think it's a little too early. I prefer him like 15, 16, somewhere in that range. And then the wide receivers here just seem like great options. So I think I'm going to roll the dice at the running back position. I'm going to fade DeAndre Swift here. I don't think he's a bad pick. I think he's a very good pick. But I'm going to go with Devontae Adams. I think you could totally argue for Stephon Diggs here. They're very, very close, in my opinion, like back-to-back in my rankings. I'm just going to go with the player who I think is the best wide receiver in the NFL, and that is Devontae Adams. I think he's going to have like a great fit on this Raiders offense. Not quite as good of a situation as he had with the Packers, but still a very strong offense to be on. Derek Carr is going to give him that passing volume. So we're going to start off with two elite wide receivers, Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams, at the 1-2 turn. And now there's going to be a ton of picks that went down after our 1-2 turn picks. So second round, solid mix of running backs, wide receivers, and then Travis Kelce thrown in there. In the third round, we saw some wide receivers, a pair of running backs, and then Josh Allen came off the board also, and then Andrews and Pitts. So here we are. Right now, like I said, got Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams. In an ideal world, we're going to be picking at least one running back here just to lock up the RB1 in our roster. And it looks like things kind of played out well. So we have David Montgomery and Cam Akers available. Those are players I'm definitely not interested in the third round. But Travis Etienne is still on the board. I think he's definitely going to be one of our 2 picks at this spot. Then we could look at tight end. I still think like late third, early fourth round is too early for guys like Kittle and Waller. So we have Travis Etienne. Now let's see who our second pick is going to be. Looking at wide receiver, we've got Deontay Johnson, Jalen Waddle, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Cooks, DK Metcalf. For me, this pick is pretty clear in my opinion. It is Deontay Johnson. I am so in on Deontay this year. The man had a great season last year playing with a shell of Big Ben. I think he's clearly the alpha wide receiver on this team. I think he can fit in any system with any type of quarterback. I think he can win all over the field, and I think he's going to put together a solid fantasy season. So let's lock in those 2 picks. We'll have Travis Etienne and then 3 wide receivers that I feel very, very confident in. And then we'll kind of see what's available for us at the 5-6 turn. Maybe we'll be looking to go elite quarterback. If one of the tight ends, Kittle or Waller, falls, those guys will definitely be in play. But so let's take a look at what we're looking at here. So after in the 4th round, we saw a lot of wide receivers come off, some running backs, Mahomes, Herbert, Waller. Then in the 5th, a ton of wide receivers with George Kittle and Lamar Jackson thrown in there. So now at the 5-12, let's see the options we're looking at. At quarterback, we have Kyler Murray, who would be like the elite, QB option here. Running backs, really not a fan of any of these players at this price. Elijah Mitchell, A.J. Dillon, Miles Sanders, Chase Edmonds. These are guys I'm just not really willing to pick in the 5th or 6th round. And then looking at wide receiver, Cortland Sutton, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Juju Smith-Schuster. There's some interesting options here. I think Cortland Sutton would probably be my top player there. Some people may prefer Jeudy. For me, Cortland Sutton is going to be my guy. So given the fact I don't really like the options at the running back position, I don't really like the tight ends here. I'm not trying to pick Dalton Schultz early 1st round. I think we may go with quarterback here. This is a spot where if we only had 1 pick, I'd be fine waiting a little bit, at the quarterback position. But given we don't have very solid options elsewhere, there's not a ton of players who are really screaming out as great values. I'll snag an elite quarterback. At this point, we kind of know we're not going to be having an elite tight end. So, one of those alternative positions, tight end and quarterback, we're going to get one elite option there. And then tight end, we'll get a later round guy. And then we're going to lock up my guy, Cortland Sutton. And he's actually going to fill up like our wide receiver and flex spots. So really strong there. Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Deontay Johnson, and Cortland Sutton. So let's take another look at the draft board, see what went down late 6th round and then through the 7th. So a ton of wide receivers went off the board in the 6th. Pretty common for teams to be attacking the wide receiver position here. And then in the 7th round, we saw some teams go running back, also some quarterbacks and some running backs off the board. So here at our 7-12 pick, it would be nice if we could get like a decent quality running back at this spot, just because right now we're looking at 1 running back. And if we wait another, 18, 19 picks, the pickings may be a little bit slim here. So we could also look at tight end. Right now, TJ Hawkinson's on the board. I'm not comfortable picking him at this price. I'm pretty low on Hawkinson this year. Quarterback, just not interested. We have Kyler, just going to be fading the position. Running back, guys like Chase Edmonds, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damian Harris, Tony Pollard. These are guys who are potentially interesting options here. Wide receiver, we've got Christian Kirk, Allen Lazard, Kadarius Toney. At this point, I'd be looking at guys like Treylon Burks, Claypool, players like that, kind of fading some of these other guys like Kirk, Lazard. Not as high on those players. Honestly, at this price, CEH doesn't seem like a terrible pick. A guy like Tony Pollard is also a little bit interesting, but I think I'd rather have the swing on the guy who could be the RB1 for his roster. And then do we go wide receiver? Who would it be? Do we go Burks, or do we just kind of lock down back-to-back running backs? I feel like that's the question here. The quarterback and tight end position, I think I'm kind of out on at this turn spot. So it really comes down to, do I go with like Edmonds and CEH? No, not Edmonds. CEH and Tony Pollard, or do I go with one of those guys and then snag a player like Burks or Claypool? I think I'm going to go running back. I feel like, heading into the 8th, 9th round, teams are going to go really heavy at the running back position, and we don't want to be left, without any quality options here. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the guy that I think we can trust as like a weak running back 2 option. And then Pollard has that elite ceiling if Ezekiel Elliott goes down, but also gives you a decent weekly floor, just having his own role in this offense behind Zeke at the running back position, also potentially getting some slot opportunities. So I think if I'm just looking at best player available, I probably would have gone with Treylon Burks there, but just looking at our roster construction, we were weak at the running back position, so I wanted to kind of fill that up because our wide receivers are so strong. So we really saw all kinds of players come off the board. Actually, only 1 tight end with TJ Hawkinson, then a lot of wide receivers, some quarterbacks, some running backs thrown in there. Basically, all those decent options at running back are now kind of off the board here. Looking at our roster, we have all our starting spots filled in except for the tight end position. We've got 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers. We could look at tight end here, guys like Zach Ertz available. For me, my best option here would be Dawson Knox. So he's a guy we're definitely considering at this price. Quarterback, not even paying attention to it. Running backs, Ramondre Stevenson, James Cook. James Cook would probably be the best option here. Not super excited about it. Wide receivers, Jacoby Myers, Jarvis Landry, Michael Gallup. Oh, I see my guy Sky Moore. Sky Moore would definitely be the wide receiver pick for me here. So right now, I'm pretty strongly considering going Sky Moore and then Dawson Knox. For me, if I'm picking a late round tight end, I know Dawson Knox was super touchdown dependent last year, but everyone seems to be super hyped up about Gabriel Davis getting a bigger role. In my opinion, if weapons are leaving, I think Dawson Knox could take that next step. He's a young touchdown. I think there are some, concerns with that touchdown dependency, but I'm taking the bet that his volume improves. And then if he can get lucky with touchdowns again on a good offense, what happens. I think he's the guy I'm going to take a swing on here. So Dawson Knox is going to be our first pick. And then my guy, Sky Moore, just a crazy value if you're getting him as your wide receiver 5. The dude was in stud in college. He's been making plays in training camp. I think, there's questions with Juju and MVS. So Sky Moore is going to be the guy here to be our wide receiver 5. So I believe that leaves us with 3 picks left. So we're going to have 2 more back-to-backs and then just a kind of like a solo pick, I think at the end of the draft. So basically we saw a ton of these tight ends come off the board. Good thing we grabbed Knox because I think he definitely would have been picked and we would have been left with some weak options. And then just a ton of running backs. So only 2 wide receivers went after us in the next 18 picks, but at least 10 running backs, 10 plus running backs went off the board. So looking at our roster now, 3 running backs, 5 wide receivers. We probably want to hit the running back position a few more times, maybe once, maybe twice. We'll see how it kind of shakes out here. So just looking at running backs, got Kenneth Gainwell, Gus Edwards, Khalil Herbert, Tyler Algier, Rashad White. I think this pick is going to come down to Algier and Rashad White, and I think I'm going to favor Rashad White at this spot. Just seems like an elite handcuff option behind Leonard Fournette. He's already had reports come out that he's been great as a pass catcher. If he can get some pass catching work, on top of being a handcuff option, that would be great for his fantasy value. Could give him, flex potential on a week-to-week basis. So he's going to be our guy here, our running back. Running back 4. And then we'll probably look wide receiver with this next pick. Michael Gallup, Kenny Galladay, MVS. I feel like I already have Sky Moore, so we probably don't want to go back to the well in the Chiefs. I think Michael Gallup's going to be the pick here. He's honestly a player where if you draft him, you could probably just move him right into your IR slot because it doesn't look like he's going to be ready to go week 1. So you maybe could pick up another guy, heading into the week 1 waiver wire. But we're going to go with Gallup, the potential wide receiver 2 on the Cowboys once he gets back from that ACL tear. And that is going to lead us into our final pick. I believe it's the final pick of the entire draft. Yup. So a ton of running backs went off. A few kind of tight end 2s. Looks like a quarterback 2 went off, a wide receiver here or there. And so now the final pick, this really, we could go in a few different spots. Right now we have 6 wide receivers. I feel very good about that. We're probably going to fade that position. We have 4 running backs, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end. We could draft a tight end 2, but honestly, just looking at best player available here, Trey Lance going in the 13th round. Even though I already have Kyler Murray, that type of value is just too insane to pass up. I truly believe Trey Lance has high-end QB1 potential. So just as a trade asset, if Trey Lance is who I think he is, he's going to bring in someone who can return 7th round fantasy value, maybe even 6th, 5th, if he really hits that elite ceiling. So Trey Lance is going to be the no-brainer pick here. So let's take a look at our final roster. They're going to give us a grade. I don't pay any attention to that grade because it just kind of grades you on how well you followed their ADP. So they give us a 72 out of 100. Doesn't look like a great score, but I actually really like this team. Really like the elite QB1 option we have with Kyler. Then Travis Etienne, I like at running back. CEH is definitely a weak RB2, but our wide receivers make up for it with Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Deontay Johnson, and then Cortland Sutton in the flex, and then Dawson Knox at tight end. I think our bench is solid also. Tony Pollard, weekly flex play with a lead upside with a Zeke injury. Sky Moore, I just love. Rashad White, handcuff option. Michael Gallup, a decent option coming off of injury. And then Trey Lance, the high upside quarterback. So that's what our team is looking like. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Also, if you want me to do specific kind of strategy or specific league settings, let me know and I'll try to, do as many as I can. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you enjoyed the content, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.